Hey, welcome back to the Disney Plus Everyday Challenge, and today we have Spider-Man. This is the 2002 film directed by Sam Raimi. Put that down there. Corny bit, done. And scene. So this is the 2002 Sam Raimi film. The man you know is behind Evil Dead and the Army of Darkness and things like that. And there's fingerprints from those films throughout this, as they are with all Sam Raimi films, including the Oldsmobile that Uncle Ben drives Peter to New York City for, with I should say. And also, of course, Bruce Campbell has to show up in some form in every Sam Raimi film, especially every single one of these Spider-Man films, in which, he also appeared in Doctor Strange, the Multiverse of Madness. So all of this is sort of something new. While Sam has always been more of an independent filmmaker, back in the days when Evil Dead and everything else since then had been done, this is his, I believe, first big studio movie for Sony. I mean, this is Sony, mainly because again, this is Sony's shot at using Marvel properties because they own the rights to Spider-Man for film, not for animation, but for film, and it's a big swing because only 2 years before, X-Men premiered, courtesy of 20th Century Fox. Marvel Studios did not exist at this point. And yes, we often cite X-Men, Spider-Man, without adjectives, no uncanny, no amazing, from the start as kind of the beginning. And yes, we have to always mention Blade. Blade kind of made the genre of both superheroes in a sense, but it was more horror. But it's still a Marvel character. Nobody talks about the Man-Thing movie that most people didn't see, which happened between all of that. There's a Man-Thing movie out there. Look it up. It's interesting. It's interesting. Let's just say that. But we look at Spider-Man in 2002 and X-Men in 2000 as kind of the big, great awakening of Marvel films that led to the ability of Marvel itself creating their own studio, working with Paramount and things like that to release films under their own brand. The characters that they didn't sell off in order to avoid bankruptcy in the 90s. So, what we get here, Spider-Man, who's easily considered kind of the most iconic character in all of Marvel comics, kind of like the way Superman or Batman is. Spider-Man, before anybody ever cared about the Avengers, Spider-Man, the Hulk were the most recognizable for fans of people who weren't even comic book fans. If you saw Spider-Man and Hulk, you knew exactly who they were. It's not even a question. Batman, Superman, same way. Wonder Woman. Those kind of characters are always just sort of the core of those respective publishers and universes. And to get Spider-Man right, even though this is not the first time that Spider-Man has been put in live action, it certainly happened in the 1970s. Yeah, you can find that stuff probably on YouTube. In the 1970s, there was also, of course, a Japanese series. But for the most part, Spider-Man has existed mostly in animation because so much of what his physicality and some of his rogues gallery all lend themselves to more of an animated style. And it's more kid-friendly than anything else that technically that Marvel has done. So it's kind of a weird choice for them to use a guy who's known for his horror directing to depict Spider-Man. And this is, like I said, Sam's fingerprints are all over this in the way he films things, how certain scenes are shot. He pushes in and pulls out very quickly for certain exciting moments. You can see that also in the second film. Well, all three of the films really, but this one it's kind of jarring when you're used to seeing Ash being at the center of all the action and the comedy with the horror and everything else. A man fighting his own hand, tends to be a memorable sight. But then to see a young man, and we see Peter Parker, who is a good kid, struggling to survive, to make money for the family, the normal everyday Joe, also dealing with superpowers and the responsibilities that come with being a hero. even if temptations come his way that say, you could take it easier. You could make money doing this. You could be selfish, and that temptation comes in the form of the Green Goblin, played by William Dafoe. Tobey Maguire, by the way, is the Spider-Man, and that's Kirsten Dunst in one of the most memorable kisses of the 21st century. This is kind of one of the first big iconic moments when you think of a Spider-Man movie. This kiss is pretty much right there. As much as it was miserable for them to make it. As much as he was pretty much drowning and she was freezing, and you can tell. Just saying. When this movie first came out, it was a miracle for anybody who saw it then, who loved comics, and just said, it's happening. It's possible. X-Men was pretty great. And Spider-Man followed along 2 for 2. These were movies that we saw constantly in theaters. In recent years, leading up to the introduction of Tom Holland and his series of films, my friends and I, many years ago, did a run-through of all of the previous Spider-Man films. All 3 Sam Raimi's, both Amazing Spider-Mans, and they didn't fare well. We kind of did our own running commentary. We'd all seen the films plenty of times before. We all have our problems with certain aspects of the films. Now that we're a little bit more grown up, not that I wasn't a grown up when this film came out, but yeah, there's certain aspects of this film, as much as it is kind of I can't say it's formative, but it's a beloved movie with its flaws. Just like Star Wars, Star Wars isn't perfect. It's a movie I love and live and breathe, but it's not perfect. This film suffers from a number of different flaws, and I don't know if some of them are necessarily flaws. They might be intentional. The dialogue sounds like it was written by Stan Lee in the 1960s for an audience of 10-year-olds. And I don't know if it's the way it's delivered by very talented actors. Tobey Maguire, Kirsten Dunst, William Dafoe, James Franco, all of them. The dialogue comes through just really awkward. I don't know if it's because of the time where it took many decades to get the Marvel superhero comics into film done correctly. There was no shortage of Batman films between Tim Burton and Schumacher and Christopher Nolan over so many years. And, of course, Superman with Christopher Reeve. It's just... There's so many Batmans. There's so many Superman. Well, we've had many Supermans now. But we couldn't seem to get a Marvel film off the ground that worked. And, yeah, there were Hulks, too. There were a number of Hulk movies. But they were kind of difficult. So, this in this sense, this one's groundbreaking. Now, my problems with this film, beyond just the really creaky dialogue, that just it feels like it was written for a stage play. It feels like it's being delivered by a high school stage play. You might have the same problems with the prequel trilogy of Star Wars, that it was written in a very just specific style. Like, George had his ideas. There's reasons why the dialogue, it's not, it sounds so weird in Phantom Menace. It's intentional for George. Hayden Christensen and Natalie Portman and Hugh McGregor are all talented actors. Yes, absolutely talented actors. And you've seen them in other things. You can't deny that. But the dialogue in Phantom Menace just sort of was meant to evoke a certain time, a certain era, a certain type of film, of story of knights and chivalry and everything else. And it may not translate for our modern brains, but that's the way he did it. And this, I wonder, was intentional as well by Sam Raimi and those who wrote it. And my tablet is not working right now. It's dead, so I can't look at the list of... I imagine Sam wrote it, because he is a fan, and he understands the characters, and there are so many just little tiny Easter eggs that even after seeing this so many times over the years, especially when it was released in theaters, and there's things maybe I've forgotten I knew. or I just only realized I'm now watching it just now. Like Lucy Lawless shows up. Of course, Ted Raimi isn't his brother, but Lucy Lawless shows up. She's a punk rocker in one scene, one line. That's it. Of course, he's going to bring in, like I told you, Bruce Campbell. The Oldsmobile shows up in every Sam Raimi film. Yeah. It's Elizabeth. Not. Never mind. She's in there as Betty, another iconic character from Marvel, from Spider-Man's stories. Haven't seen her in the comics in a while. She's got her own thing going on. There's a mention, believe it or not, there is an early mention of Venom in this film. Technically not Venom, but Eddie Brock. In fact, there's just one moment between Robbie and JJ who are discussing trying to get pictures of Spider-Man, and Eddie isn't working out. They just mention Eddie. And for Star Wars, for Spider-Man fans, you know that's Eddie Brock. Because he's always been a competitor to Peter, at least until the late 80s. That's when he started becoming a competitor to Peter. And eventually became Venom. So what we get is this. We get issues with delivery of dialogue. A lot of it, again, is meant to evoke the comics themselves, and it is also meant to be pointed at a younger audience. This is not meant showing in an effort to be overly sophisticated, even though, yeah, there's plenty of subtext throughout Peter's struggle between his identity as just this normal nice guy and wanting to assert himself. And when he does get that confidence after getting his powers, he becomes a bit of a jerk, which we eventually do see him do fully once the symbiote gets a hold of him in the third film. But his nature is to be kind, it is to be generous, it is to be responsible, as he was raised. And when the spider bite causes him to become buffer, doesn't need his glasses, he's not going to be pushed around anymore. And sometimes he takes the hit. And that's kind of the thing with Peter. He often, with Spider-Man, he takes the hit and gets back up. But in the very beginning, in the early times, he kind of gets full of himself. That's why he lets the robber go. That steals from the wrestling league, who eventually, in this, kills Ben, Uncle Ben. They're so. I mean, one of the good things about this is that it does remain very true to the original comics, except for, of course, the end sequence. Mary Jane ends up. By the way, I'm not going to worry about spoilers at this point. It's a 23-year-old film that was seen by millions around the globe multiple times. If you haven't seen it, well, why are you listening to me right now? Honestly, if you really are interested in seeing it, you would have seen it by now, or you just go watch it now and come back to me later. Okay, that's just how it should work. The end of the story pretty much puts Mary Jane in a Gwen Stacy situation on top of a bridge, and Green Goblin is about to sacrifice her, or is basically going to kill her in a bid to basically get back at Peter. But it doesn't work out the same way. Obviously, Mary Jane survives, and it all works out. But being that Peter Parker is always the hero who loses in so many ways, it becomes very frustrating for a lot of people when they watch these films. A friend of mine, even the last Tom Holland film, where a certain character important to him dies, and everybody loses their memory of him, and he's alone. Well, it frustrated a friend of mine. Like, he can't win. Like, why does this have to happen like this? This is miserable. You have to understand, Peter's life can't work out in most cases. He can't get the happy ending that we want for the hero. His life is always sacrifice so that others may live, so that others may thrive, so that others get to that happy ending. He is the eternal kind of Sisyphus kind of guy who pushing the boulder up, but it keeps coming back down. He never gets very far, even though others benefit from his hard work. I really hope I didn't butcher that metaphor, analogy. So there's a number. Oh, that's my tablet's almost back from the dead. 1%, good for me. So I could almost spend most of the time just complaining about it, because honestly, yeah, one of the things that you can expect is that the digital effects, like the character movement, Peter running across a rooftop, or all that stuff, just hasn't aged well, and that's understandable. That can be forgiven. It's not important to the story, to the character, or anything else. It is the technology of its time, and it was top of the line at the time when it was released. So you can't really complain about that. It's just the way things progress. We get stuff now that are people do with AI that looks better than any movie made 20, 25 years ago. It's stolen from other people's work, but still it looks pretty great. So, one of the I don't want to get to this too soon, but I should wrap this up. One of the hardest parts about watching it again with my friends, leading up to starting the No Way Home, Far From Home, the Homecoming film with Tom Holland. When we rewatched the previous 5 films, we realized that Andrew played a very charismatic, maybe a little bit overly confident and somewhat of a jerk Peter Parker, but he was a great Spider-Man. He has a great delivery, the great humor. Tobey is a great sympathetic character. You just look at him and you're just like, you want to hug him, and you know he's a good guy. And to see him do anything bad is disturbing. But one of the hardest things about this, my friends and I realized, that make these films difficult, the Sam Raimi films difficult. It's not the music. Music is fantastic. It's Danny Elfman, who's also did all the Batman stuff with Tim Burton. It is not the effects. It is not the music. It is not the actors. The actors are cast perfectly. They're cast beautifully. It is a really good cast. But it's Peter and MJ's relationship. Not MJ and Spider-Man's, not Peter and Spider-Man's, not Spider-Man with anybody else for the most part. It is literally the toxic, just frustrating relationship between Peter and MJ, who expect things of each other, but seem to refuse to do anything for each other. And when they don't get what they want, they immediately shut the other one out. This is I'm actually doing commentary over all 3 Sam Raimi films, all 3 Tobey films, but it is so frustrating because you may not like the fact that Harry starts dating MJ after Peter points her out to him while they're in high school at the science center, where Peter eventually gets bitten by the spider, and eventually they secretly date. But also, when they finally start realizing they like each other, well, Peter's always loved her. But when she finally realizes it, it's only after going after everything else in her life, whether it's Flash Thompson, who's just a complete prick, or it's Harry, who is in her life and just dotes on her, which is a harsh contrast to what she gets at home, where her father is a complete garbage person to her and is at the very least, verbally abusive to her. So she finds a little joy and a little happiness in not worrying about money and not worrying about just affection and somebody acting like they care. Well, you can't blame her, but when it comes to the boy who's always loved her, and Kirsten Dunst is really good at just literally lighting up every single time she sees Tobey Maguire. Every single time those 2 characters get on screen together toward the beginning, she could be the most miserable mood because she just got yelled at work. But then, hey, Peter, oh, yeah, It's great. And it's obvious that she has an affection for him, but at the same time, none of it's realized. None of it's realized. And eventually, as we discover through the next two films as well, and including the very end of this film, where Peter's like, hey, you love me? But we can only be friends because you're going to be put in danger because somebody's going to find out I'm Spider-Man again, like the Green Goblin did, and try to kill you. What? He didn't say those things, but it's in his head. So he cannot have happiness. He cannot have joy. He cannot have love and relationship or anything else, even when it's handed to him. The very thing he's ever wanted is handed to him, and he's got to give it up. It doesn't make for a happy ending for a movie, and you kind of want that happy ending. You kind of want that, oh, we hug and maybe we kiss, because he does get the kiss right here, obviously, but only as Spider-Man. And again, we're actually in this era where we still have secret identities for superheroes. We still have that, like with Batman and to a degree Superman over in DC. But for the most part, Marvel Comics movies these days don't bother with too many dual identities. Pretty much everybody knows who the Hulk is. Everybody knows who Iron Man is. It's Captain America was Steve Rogers, and now it's Sam Wilson. So it's everybody kind of knows. Like, there's Ms. Marvel is a fan of all these superheroes, and she knows who the Guardians of the Galaxy are. It's like these are people who live in space their entire life. She's never met them, but she knows all about them because apparently Ant-Man wrote a book. But still, that's canon, by the way. Still, when it comes to these two characters, later on in the second and third films, because by the time that the second film starts, so she's moved on to John Jameson, it's JJ's son. By the way, J.K. Simmons, always fantastic. And I know it's probably scripted, but I feel like any time he's on screen, whatever line he delivers is something that probably just came out of his own head. It feels like it. That is the one dialogue delivery performance that I cannot complain. I mean, again, some of it, like I told you, it sounds like community theater, just chewing the scenery to the hilt, when one of the most infamous moments, if not only one of the more memeable moments, which there are plenty of, especially involving William Dafoe, and his crazy face, is when Aunt May, is trying to get Norman to say grace at their Thanksgiving dinner, and he figures something out about Peter, and has to leave suddenly because, okay. And so at the end, when she's praying at her bed, he busts through her window trying to traumatize her and make her finish the prayer that she was in the middle of. And she belts out this ultra dramatic moment. There's nothing, you can't say anything. Rosemary, I think Rosemary was her name. Rest in peace. You can't say anything bad about her, but it's a little over the top. But maybe that's, again, the Sam Raimi influence. It is very much part of how Peter's transformation into Spider-Man physically feels like it is meant to be body horror. There are meant to be certain sequences with the Green Goblin also that are meant to be horror. It's and the only thing that's worse than just the main characters in some of the line delivery is just seeing the extras in the background. Some of the extras spend way too much time on camera voguing, like he's holding that shot because there's probably a CGI Spider-Man or Green Goblin that is going to be put in the shot eventually, but there's some people, and you probably know who you are if you're watching this video, me going, oh. Yeah, it's a little over the top. So if you ever want to watch this movie, whenever there's action going down, watch the extras, especially if you've seen the foreground characters many times. Watch the extras. And there's way too many people who are just sort of standing there with no emotion whatsoever, like, hey, there's a giant thing that's going to fall on me. I realize I'm a 7-year-old or something that's just standing there. But yeah, it's like, yeah, it's a little over the top. It's a little under the top, I guess, in some ways, where there's just underacting and overacting all over the place. That said, I don't hate the film, but it doesn't really stand up to how I originally felt about the film, because it's more about that moment of just sort of discovering and seeing the character you've known and read over and over again for decades and loved so much being brought to the big screen and sharing that experience with so many others. And of course, some things might not always stand up to time, especially with newer and different and expanded and improved versions of films brought out, of superhero type films brought out over the years since then. It's been 23 years since this movie came out. And so we have a different understanding of how to depict superheroes to an audience. We always thought that the X-Men could not be put in their colorful outfits. Wolverine could not wear yellow and blue or even brown, because everybody had to be in black leather because it wouldn't sell to a regular audience. Like, a regular people would go into this and go, what is this kind of clown show? Why does that guy have knives in his hands and dressed like he's a member of the Michigan Wolverines football team? What is going on there? No. Man, I've been doing this way too long. I thought I set this up. Ah, jeez. You gonna make me do this again? Disney Plus. I realize this is a long video, but seriously. Anyway, yeah. Do I recommend this film? Obviously, I do. If you're a fan of superheroes and fan of Marvel, this is a requirement. This is just a film that's required to be seen at some point in your life. You're going to have to go through it even one time. Go through all the Sam Raimi films, because he's a talented filmmaker. He knows how to entertain. He knows how to make a great film. Could this have been made better in a number of different ways? Absolutely. Did he hit the nail on the head with all the right little touches and just really using his directorial skills in a way that brought this character to life? Absolutely. Was it probably twisted enough by the studio to prevent it from being even better? Oh, probably. But what are you going to do? If you grew up with this as like your kind of introduction to superheroes, I keep wanting to say Star Wars. If you watch this as your like seminal moment in understanding and enjoying and loving superheroes, maybe it got you into comics, maybe it got you into watching his cartoons from the 90s, maybe it got you into just dressing up as him for Halloween. That's great. That is fantastic. I can't crap on your experience on this, and everybody handles it differently. But I have more than enough nitpicking to do for a movie that is great, good, but now that it's with the hindsight, there's certain things that can't be fixed, and that's basically mostly Peter and MJ's relationship, because they probably shouldn't have been together, because there's so many times that they just snap at each other in the later films. They snap at each other, and it's just like, it's for the dumbest things. I realize you needed to keep that kind of tension, that drama, that romance, but it seems like they're way too abusive to each other. And at first, Peter's also kind of a little bit of a creep. They live next door to each other, and he's just sort of looking through her window as she's doing her hair before school and getting her outfit in place. I'm like, dude, you've been in love with her since she was 6, but she needs to close the curtains, and you need to stop staring at her. I don't care how much you're in love with her. Chill out, dude. Just saying. Okay. Since this video, this episode was randomly picked by my algorithm chooser thing, I didn't realize that it would have been Spider-Man today, which would have bumped up right against another Marvel film which premieres tomorrow. That is the latest Marvel film to be released this past summer, called Fantastic Four: First Steps. So that is what we're watching, a double feature. What if the next day we get Elektra? I think Elektra is technically the last film in this quarter's set of things that is it remains. It's another 20th Century Fox film. Well, Spider-Man is Sony. Fantastic Four was 20th Century Fox, and then is now owned by Disney. And then if Elektra came through, wow, then that would take it. That'd be the last 20th Century Fox film. Although I have checked, and later this month, or December, I'm not sure, probably later this month, Madam Web is going to be added. But I'm not going to add her. Maybe I will add her. I will see. We'll see how it all works out. I want to have something interesting to talk about in January. I don't want to have just documentaries. So we'll see. And we have so many Christmas things already picked out. So don't worry about that. I'm going to try to get all the Christmas things watched this December. Just because I'm probably not going to come back here again until... We won't make it in next December. Unless Disney buys another movie company and starts throwing up stuff directly onto Disney Plus and not Hulu. So, tomorrow, all of that to say, and you can, by the way, if you disagree with anything I say, please comment. Please comment. We can have a civil discussion. Please comment. You can like and subscribe and do all that stuff. That, I don't harp on that like some people do, but I appreciate any likes and subscribing and whatever, comments. So, tomorrow, Fantastic Four, First Steps is what we're watching next on the Disney Plus Everyday Challenge. I'll see you back here tomorrow with that. Excelsior.